Hi everybody, today I'm going to teach you about oil changes, or at least what I know about oil changes. I've had a bunch of people come to me at rallies and events and be like, hey, I see you're handy with stuff and you're always, wrenching on something, and I'm not mechanically inclined whatsoever. What can I do to start becoming mechanically inclined? And the first thing I usually tell people is change your own oil. It's super easy to do, requires not too many tools, and takes like 20 minutes or less depending on the complexity of the bike and what needs to be done. So let me show you what has to be done on my 250L from Honda. The first thing you need to make sure is you have the supplies. So you'll need an oil filter. Some bikes have a gasket for the oil filter. You need the oil as well. And I think I have more than I need here, but this is the pack I got, so I just didn't take it out of the back box yet. You'll need a socket that fits your oil drain plug. You'll need some way to collect the oil. This is one of we got it from, I think, AutoZone. There's other buckets too, but some bikes, it's a little tricky to put those buckets under. So I found that this one here works on our bikes. Easily slides under the bike. So it's in the way, it will collect the oil. I know for some street bikes I've done oil changes on that you have to lift them up a little bit to do it because they're lower to the ground. With dirt bikes and ADV bikes, you probably have better luck not needing to, lift the bike off the ground or anything like that. You're also gonna want some gloves because this can get messy. Another part that people recommend is either a new bolt and a crush washer, or just the crush washer. I recently replaced mine last year, so I'm not gonna do it this year, or at least this oil change, but let's get started. So I've got a third-party skid plate, and I think it's in a Chirby's on this bike. So it's a little more trickier to get in there than the normal stock plate is, because the stock plate barely covers any of this. But on the Chirby's plate, there's two holes in the skid plate, and it's the farther one away from this side of the bike that has a 12mm socket. Move this out of the way for a second because it's in the way. And then you should just loosen it. It shouldn't take too much. So at this point, I should be able to loosen it with my fingers. Or you can use the socket still. I just like the feel of it because I can tell when it's gonna pop out of bike. And there we are. I had run the bike beforehand. Some people say you should run the bike to warm the fluid up beforehand. I do sometimes I don't. If it's wintertime, yeah, I'm gonna start the bike up. Normally I tend to not to because if it gets too hot, you can hurt yourself with it. And while it's draining, you're going to look at the consistency of the oil. Is it too dark? Some bikes will have darker oil, depending on what type you use. You're mostly concerned about looking for shiny, metallic flickers in the oil, because if you're seeing a lot of that, then your bike is wearing down the metal in there, and that's not good for it. And that's something you want to pay attention to. If you see chunks coming out of things, that's a problem. Get the bike looked at. Just like that, it's drained already. What you can also do is you can lift it up and you can tilt it and let it drip out some more, because it's on the side, so the oil is not fully draining out. And you want to get as much of the oil out as possible, and that just causes more of it to pull out. So we'll give it another second to drain. So this is the bolt, and then this is the crush washer, and it's still in decent shape because I changed it out last time I did one. If it's not leaking, I'm not going to change it out right now. Put the bolt back in with the crush washer, replace it if you need to replace it, and then you want to get it hand tight. So that's hand tight, and then you're going to take your wrench or socket again, one little pull. I'm not going to torque down on it because you can strip it. I want to get it just enough that I can push on it and then it doesn't go anymore. But you want to not be too strong on it because you can strip the threads, and that's your engine case, and that's a problem. Next, we have to work on the filter. And on the CRF, it's this box right here. And we'll need your filter and the gasket. I don't think I've changed this gasket out this year yet, or I don't know if I did it last year, but I have a gasket. And you're gonna want to take some rags or paper towels or whatever, and you're gonna want to shove it in and around the area, because there is oil in this still. It's not a huge amount still, but there is some oil in there. And then it will just run down into my skid plate, and be a mess I have to clean up later. And I don't want to do that. You remove these bolts, and on the CRF and the DR, there's probably other bikes too. I have not done changes on other bikes with oil filters like this. These have springs in them, so they will pop off at you at some point when you get them loose enough. And then that's when the oil will start to trickle out. Some skid plates may be in the way. And you see here it's starting to move, and the oil is now starting to spill out. Actually, I should probably put that there because it's a little more full than I thought. And then it's just, it pops out as a couple different pieces in here. So here is the oil filter that was in there. Again, you can check that for metal fragments. And then you're gonna see that in here still, but the spring goes in the middle here. And then you're also going to want to pay attention to how the filter was in there because it goes in one way. Notice it's a little darker. I had a goof error. I bought the wrong oil filters. So I had to run out, and thank goodness my AutoZone had one of these in stock. You replace the old oil gasket filter with the new one. And you follow the same pattern how it was on here before. Spring goes inside again. The side that doesn't have the hole, so you see the hole here? Now this is solid. The side that doesn't have the hole goes inward on the cover here, because the side that has the hole needs to go where this hole is here. So it looks like that. What you're gonna do, you're gonna put it back. And one tip you can do to make this slightly easier is you can take a screw, so the gasket is actually attached to it so it can't twist. And you're gonna get it lined up again, and that screw started. So that sort of holds it. Then you're gonna go back through, start putting the other screws on, getting them all roughly partially on. Make sure it goes through the gasket again. Usually I just do like the corners, like opposite diagonal, and then the gasket's lined up at that point. And then this part, you're gonna wanna hold this down and tighten it, because if you're not holding it down, the cover springs back out, and then you end up not tightening it fully, and then you turn the bike on and you squirt oil out of there, and that's not what you want to have happen. Ask me how I know. And then you want to make sure it's tight like that. So I think I feel a gap here. So then you want to torque down a little more on this. Next part is to put oil back in the bike. So on my CRF, there's a little oil cap right here. Some bikes will have dipsticks, some may not. Your results may vary based off the year and make and model. My vintage bike actually has a dipstick, which is kind of cool. So we're gonna use a funnel, and we're gonna start filling the bike with oil. So that's the sight glass right there. And you see the 2 tick marks on each side. So there's tick mark here and tick mark there. The goal is when the bike is level, that the oil should be between these 2 marks, not below the mark, not above the mark. Oil capacity on the CRF 250L is about 1.5 quarts. So I got my 2 quarts here. 1 full goes in, half of that. So as you're filling, you wanna see if you're getting anything draining out of the drain plug. That means it's not tight enough. A side note on the oil, when you purchase the oil, you want to make sure that it says motorcycle oil, the SJ, or an MA certification. If it doesn't have the MA certification, then it's not going to work for your bike. You can't use regular car oil on a motorcycle because motorcycles have wet clutches. Car oil is trying to reduce friction, and we need friction in a motorcycle to have our clutch work. So if you buy the wrong oil, you can cause issues to your bike with it overheating in that sense and burning up your clutch plates. Now we need to put a half of this, and luckily they show you kind of different markings and measurements on the side to help you figure out about half of it. That's about good. So once you get it full, so you're going to raise the bike up, and then you're going to want to look at the sight glass. And you can see here, I am level and I am right between the markers I need to be, which means I am good on my oil change. Because I've had issues in the past with the oil leaking out of the oil filter hole because I didn't tighten it down properly, I always start the bike afterwards now to make sure that nothing's leaking as the bike is running. So I start the bike up and make sure it runs. As you saw, I was checking to make sure it wasn't leaking out of the filter cover, and then I was also making sure nothing was draining from the bottom as I was running it as well. Best practice and good idea to always wipe down the surfaces after you're done, because then when you're checking your bike before you go riding, you can see if there's new oil there or there's leakage of oil, and you know there's a problem before you're out on the trail and you realize you're screwed. All you do is record your mileage. Mark on your maintenance schedule when you did this and at what mileage you had on the bike, so that you can track it for the season and see if you hit the mileage service requirements you need to do to change the oil again. It's always a good idea to follow those service recommendations, especially if your bike's in warranty, because if you don't follow them and then you have issues and you said you didn't follow the warranty, they're not going to fix your bike. Another way to practice your oil changing skills is to change your mower. Ignore the mess on it. I literally just mowed today and I haven't had a chance to rinse it off yet. We need to do an oil change on this, and it's even almost simpler than a motorcycle almost for some models. This is our fill plug. Technically it can also be your drain plug too. Some mowers have a specific drain plug. This one, I believe I can just drain it out of the fill hole. You would drain it from the plug, and it's basically you just kind of take that green container I showed you and you flip it over, let it drain out, and then you fill it back up. The problem with, and mowers take different quarts as well. They're not going to take too much, so just be aware. The main problem people have with mowers is putting too much oil in them, and they don't want to run after that. Because you put too much oil, it senses that and it's not going to run. But if you want practice besides your motorcycle, a mower like this is a good practice one to go with. On that note, I have to go do some more stuff. We're in the midst of preparing to go to the Berkshire Big Adventure in a couple of days, so we've got plenty to do and not enough time. Thanks for watching. If you've got questions, leave them in the comments below. Comment, like, share. I'm a small creator trying to grow my channel, so any follows, likes, subscriptions are appreciated. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next video.